Welcome back to this tutorial. We will talk about the logical and the comparison operator. Liquid supports a set of comparison and logical operators that you can use inside your conditional tags, like if, unless, and case. These allow your team to make decisions and control what content is shown. So first, let's talk about the comparison operators. These operators are used to compare values, just like in other programming languages. And note that Liquid is not a programming language, but a templating language. All right, so for the example, let's go back to the documentation. We have the equals, does not equal, greater than, less than, the greater than or equal to, the less than or equal to. If you're coming from JavaScript or any other programming language, this is very familiar to you. All right, so next, let's talk about the logical operators. Logical operators combine multiple conditions. Note that in JavaScript or PHP, you would write these as and like this, and or like this, okay? But in Liquid, you use the word and or like this. So the and evaluates to true if both conditions are true. For example, if available and on sale, if both of them are true, then this is going to evaluate to true. The or evaluates to true if either condition is true. So for example, if sold out or back order, so if one of the operand is true, then it's going to read this block of code. All right, so next, let's talk about the contains operator. The contains operator checks whether a string contains a substring or an array contains a specific string. For example, we can check if a collection that tags contains the word summer in it and understands that the collection that tags is an array, and we're checking if it contains the word summer inside it. The contains has some limitation. It does not check if an array of objects include a specific object. All right, so more of that in the next videos when we will be starting to build project. We will be like checking and talking more about this contains. Next, let's talk about the order of operation. You have to understand that when you're using multiple logical operator in a single tag, Liquid evaluates them from right to left. We have an example here. I'm going to copy that example. I will go back to learning that Liquid, paste it here. All right, make sure that your server is running. Perfect. And this is how it's going to evaluate. So first, understand that we're having multiple operation here. We have the true and false or true. We cannot use parentheses here, okay? And we cannot change the order that the code is going to be reading. All right, so how is it going to read this? Is going to read from right to left. So first it's going to evaluate this, true or false. So as we read earlier here, if we're checking two operands using the or comparison operator, is going to result to true if one of them is true. And in this case, false or true is going to be true. So the result here is going to be like this. So false or true is going to be evaluate to true. Let me write it here like this. All right, so then it's going to check again from right to left. So it's going to be true and false, and we have the and operator here, and when we're using the and operator, the two operands must be true, otherwise it's not going to read, then it's going to be false. So if we check false and true, so false and true is going to result to false, because again we're using the and operator. So it's going to be something like this. It's going to be false here, okay? And then we're going to have the final result that is going to be true and false, and we have the same scenario like before. So true and false, we're using the and operator, so it needs to be true in both operands. And as we have a false here, so it's not going to read, and the result here is going to be false. Okay, so this condition here is going to read because again we're using the unless. The unless working only if the condition checked results to false. So if I write here, for example, if I delete this one, I remove the comment here and I say, let me write an H2 and I say here, this will result to a false value. And if I save it, I go back to my hot link, we're going to have it here because the value of these conditions is false. Then as we're using the unless, it's going to read this block inside this unless tag. Next, let's talk about Truthy and Falsy. So just like JavaScript, Liquid has the concept of Truthy and Falsy values. Truthy values in Liquid include true, an empty string, and yes, you are correct, an empty string in Liquid evaluates to true, then it is a Truthy. We have the 0. Yes, the 0 also is a Truthy. We have the integer, we have the floats, we have the array, we have the empty array, and yes, again, the empty array evaluates to a Truthy. All right, so we have the page and we have the empty object. And again, yes, an empty object evaluates to a Truthy in Liquid. The falsy value in Liquid include the false and the nil. So these determine whether a condition evaluates to true or to false, just like we said earlier. So because nil and false are the only falsy value, you need to be careful how you check values in Liquid. A value may not be in the format you expect, but still be Truthy. For example, empty string are Truthy. So you need to check whether they are empty with blank. We can do something like this. Let's say if product that's title is not equal or is different to empty, or we can use the blank like this.